And we have a culture where the difference is guns can be used for hunting or for sport shooting in Canada, and there's lots of gun owners, and they're mostly law respecting and law abiding. But you can't use a gun for self-protection in Canada. That's not a right that you have in the Constitution or anywhere else. If you try and buy a gun and say it's for self-protection, no, you don't get that. You get it for hunting. You can get it for sport shooting. You take it to the range, no problem, as long as you go through our rigorous background checks. But there's a difference around the culture. And one of the things that we're seeing with the debate in the States is you get more and more of the American style, right to carry, self-defense arguments filtering up through the the usual more right-wing communications channel. And we have.
I'll keep that in the backdrop. Just we might have to pop back into that to break it down a little bit. Technically, under the letter of the law, Justin Trudeau is 100% correct. I followed the firearm safety course for long arms, for rifles, for hunting. Very useful course. Teaches you a lot about firearms, rifles, which I think everybody would do good to take such a course. But in Canada, you cannot own a firearm for the purposes of self-defense. In fact, in Canada, you can't own a taser for the purpose. You can't own a taser, period. Self-defense or not, tasers are illegal. You can't carry around pepper spray for self-defense. You can't carry around any object if the purpose of you carrying around that object is self-defense. And Justin Trudeau actually makes an interesting point here in that leave it to Justin Trudeau to actually revive what up until now was no longer really an issue of debate. Why can we not have certain, I'm not saying weapons, why can we not have certain tools for self-defense? Let's hear what Justin Trudeau says specifically.
We have a culture where the difference is guns can be used for hunting or for sport shooting in Canada, and there's lots of gun owners, and they're mostly law respecting and law abiding. But you can't use a gun for self-protection in Canada. That's not a right that you have in the Constitution or anywhere else. If you try and buy a gun and say it's for self-protection, no, you don't get that.
This is true. By the way, if you try to say it's for self-protection, you will not, unless you apply for a special permit, show specific need, you will get rejected, period. Hunting, sport shooting, not self-protection. But interesting question, Justin. You say it's not a right that we have.
Buy a gun and say it's for self-protection. No, you don't get that. You get it for hunting. You can get it for sport shooting. You take it to the range, no problem, as long as you go through our rigorous background checks. But there's a difference around the culture. And one of the things that we're seeing with the debate in the States is you get more and more of the American style, right to carry, self-defense arguments filtering up through the usual more right-wing communications channel.
Oh, okay. Forget that part.
No, you don't get those. If you try and buy a gun, not a right that you have here in Canada. That's not a right that you have in the Constitution or anywhere else. If you
interesting affirmation, Justin. It's not a right that you have in the Constitution or anywhere else. Let me just stop screen share and just go to our Constitution, and let me just see what our Charter of Rights says. The Constitutions Act, Charter of Rights. Whereas Canada is founded upon principles that recognize the supremacy of God and the rule of law, guarantee of rights and freedoms. Now, we've talked about this at length, but Justin Trudeau says you have no constitutional right to carry, to have a firearm for the purposes of self-defense. It's not a charter right. Interesting. You want to leave it to Justin Trudeau to bring up a new debate that has pretty much been silent for a long time. No constitutional right, legal right, life, liberty, and security of the person. This is in our charter. This is not the U.S. Constitution. This is in our Charter of Rights, which we know is not worth the digital paper on which it's printed. But it's in there nonetheless. So when Justin Trudeau comes up and says, it's a different culture, you don't have a charter right. You don't have a constitutional right to self-defense. Life, liberty, and security of the person. Everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of the person. What does that mean? Now that you raised the argument, Justin, what does this mean? You have the right to life, liberty, and the security of the person, except we are outlawing, we are making illegal the means of protecting your life, liberty, and security of the person. You have the right to life, liberty, and security of the person, but you don't have the right to guarantee that for yourself. You don't have the right to actually protect your security of the person. You don't have the right to protect your life. It's an interesting thing. You have the right to something that you don't have the right to protect. But thank you for actually raising this argument, because I genuinely now think firearms law, the right to self-defense and the right to own for the purposes of self-defense is now going to become a debate in Canada. And leave it to Justin Trudeau to give that debate a rebirth of sorts. I have a feeling you're going to get the likes of politicians like Pierre Poilievre. I know Maxime Bernier's position on this already. I have a feeling you're going to actually start a political debate as to why exactly our Charter of Rights says everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of the person, but the government says you don't have the means, or we're outlawing the means for you to actually ensure your life, your liberty, and your security of your own person. The argument is going to be, yeah, you have that right to life, liberty, and security of the person, but it's the government that gives that to you, and it's the government that bequeaths that to you. It's the government that protects you, not yourself. So you have that right, and it's in trust with the government, because we are the only ones with the means to actually protect your life, your liberty, and your security of the person. We're also the only ones with the powers to actually take it away and deprive you of it. But Justin, hold on one second. Actually, this is not mere hyperbole. Gun Sales Canada. What do you think happened last week, by the way, after Justin Trudeau came out and said we're going to freeze all handguns in Canada, freeze all sales, transfers. What do you think happens? What do you think happens in the States every time a politician comes in and says we're going to take away that right? Massive surge in local handgun sales as Canada looks to toughen gun laws, shop owner says. So not only is Justin Trudeau actually going to give rebirth to a debate that has very much been quiet over the last years, if not decades, he's directly bringing about the exact opposite outcome to that which he purportedly wants to ensure. So that's the intro for today. Leave it to Justin Trudeau to actually cause people to question, why exactly do I not have that right? I'm sorry. The charter says you have the right to property, but you don't have the right to protect your property. The charter says you have the right to freedom of assembly, but no guarantee of that right. You have to go to the government to make sure that they respect that right that they've protected in the charter. You have the right to life, liberty, and the security of the person. You just don't have the right to ensure it for yourself. You have to call the government so they can come and do that to you. You're going to cause a rebirth of this argument, Justin Trudeau, and blame it on right-wing media trickling up from the States. You might just be opening people's eyes to the fact that maybe the government in Canada has gone just a little bit too far. You have the right to life, liberty, and security of the person. You just don't have the right to protect yourself. Okay. I'm going to take this off for now because I hate the headphones. So we are live. It's a Saturday.